Welcome back to Relationships at Work, your guide to building workplace connections and avoiding those leadership blind spots. I'm your host, Russel Lolacher, a communications and leadership nerd with a couple of decades, very successful decades, of experience in both of those areas and a whole heap of curiosity on how we can make the workplace a better place. If you're a leader trying to understand and improve your impact on work culture and the employee experience, you're in the right place. It's Thursday, so it's time for a mini episode, a quick and valuable bit of information, around 10 minutes or so, to set you up for the week ahead. These are all inspired by our Raw Note newsletter, which you can subscribe to for free. Just go to russellolacher.com or relationshipsatwork.ca. Right at the top, you'll see all the instructions and buttons to press. But for now, the topic today, professional and respectful aren't the same thing. That's not very professional. Have you ever heard that sentence? Have you heard it before? Perhaps mentioned about a colleague who wasn't in the room, or maybe it could have been directed at us, at you. It's an interesting one. But before I get into it too much, let's do what we do on this show. Define things. We always have to define things first. What is professional? Traditionally, professionalism is associated with a specific set of behaviors, dress codes, communication styles, work ethics that align with the dominant culture's norms. And I'm sure if we close our eyes, we can all guess and picture what dominant culture usually looks like. I didn't paint the picture for you. You're doing it on your own. Those who wag the flag of professionalism might not always understand that this traditional definition can actually, inadvertently, exclude or marginalize individuals who do not conform to these norms due to their cultural, racial, ethnic, gender identity, or a lot of other differences. So what professionalism can actually do is foster uniformity, which is the opposite of diversity. It can also foster bias, discrimination, and barriers to entry and advancement, and more. All because people don't fit a preferred model of professionalism. But we still like to use words like diversity, equity, inclusivity as goals and values, while we're also saying this. Now, I'm a communications person, so let's use words that might not be such an obstacle. Okay? One that softens expectations while still understanding that there are expectations in the workplace of how we show up, how we present ourselves. I'd like to suggest shifting the conversation and reframing professionalism with respectful, being respectful. For example, professionalism is how we act. Respectful is how we act around others. Professionalism is how we communicate. Respectful is how we consider our audience. Professionalism is how we dress, while respectful is how we understand we represent the organization. Let's redefine the conversation to focus on respect, all in an effort to embrace things that we like talking about: inclusivity, integrity, accountability, excellence in work. Because behavior varies across cultures and individuals, so we have to adopt more flexible policies that allow for diversity in dress codes, in communication styles, in how we work, and not stick to the "it's always been like this" crap that supports this uniformity that we really don't want if we really want to build a healthy culture. I should also note that it's essential to also see that diversity we're talking about proudly displayed at the top, in those that represent and model the organization. If they all look and act the same, what are we actually communicating about diversity? We're back to closing our eyes and picturing what this dominant culture looks like, right? So where do we start? Where do we start shifting the conversation from professional to respectful? First, how about we establish core values? Values are important. We can define them, communicate them, demonstrate them, reward them. And these are ones that prioritize respect, inclusivity, and diversity. Then we should ensure those values are reflected in all aspects of the organization, from hiring practices to daily interactions to those exit interviews. Values is much more aligned with respectful than professional. We can also focus on outcomes. Shift the emphasis from how things are done to what is achieved. We can encourage a results-oriented culture that values the quality and impact of work over these adherences to traditional professional norms. Now, of course, the ends do not justify the means. It's all about the journey, but it shouldn't matter necessarily of how some of the work gets done or how we dress, as long as the work gets done. Another we can look at is inclusive policies. Review and update those workplace policies. I bet you it's been a while. Include dress codes, language use, and work schedules. This way we ensure that they can accommodate diverse needs and expressions. Now, I mentioned this before, and I can't mention it again. Lead by example. Leaders have to model respectful behavior in their interactions, in their decision-making, and their problem-solving. A commitment to a respect-centered culture, it sets the tone. And last, zero tolerance for disrespect. You heard the word, zero. Implement and enforce policies that make it clear that disrespect, discrimination, and harassment will not be tolerated. Ensure there are clear, safe channels for reporting these issues as well. Zero tolerance. If we're going to talk about respect in the workplace, we have to ensure that it is respectful, and that comes with a zero tolerance policy for disrespect. Pushing professionalism on others, it can be a barrier to those that don't look and act like those in power. It diminishes creativity, it diminishes diversity, cultural pride, innovation, all in the name of conformity, aka you can't be successful if you don't look and act like me-isms. And I know you and I both want a healthy culture, so professionalism is actually more of a barrier to that than we might realize. Embracing respectful behavior, on the other hand, can bring the whole organization together and forward and build those strong relationships along the way. So let's be less professional. Let's be more respectful. That's it. That's all. Look, we just had another mini episode of Relationships at Work, your guide to building workplace connections and avoiding leadership blind spots. I hope you've enjoyed this mini episode. If you get a kick out of them, we're a couple of months ahead actually in our Raw newsletter. So if you want to see some insights and different ways of looking at things, maybe shift a mindset here and there, I highly encourage you to go to russellolacher.com or relationshipsatwork.ca. You can sign up there for free and it'll be in your inbox. No worries, no problems. It also has insights and takeaways from recent guest episodes too, so you just have a little bit of extra morsels in there to dig into. Sound good? Fantastic. Take care.